Welcome back to Make It Mondays, and this week I am working on a new project. This one will go up on the Etsy store, but I'm making coasters, the ends will be trimmed off later, and trivets out of cotton yarn. And this is a variation of a pattern that I do sell in one of the pattern books, and I believe it is available individually also on Ravelry and Etsy. I will link appropriate websites down below, but let me get everything turned around and I'll show you how it all gets started. So we are actually going to start all the way at the beginning this time. So I have my needles sitting on my lap, and then I have the yarn. So I'm making a loop with my right hand and then pulling up the working yarn, so the long bit, to make a slip knot. I'm going to place that on the needles. Now I'm doing a cable cast on. If you're doing a long tail cast on, the cast on is very different from this. So inserting the needle into that one slip stitch, yarning over, pulling through a stitch, then pulling it forward. And then continuing with those steps, with that last stitch on the needles all the way across until I reach the correct number of stitches. So I will, so this pattern is actually only 4 rows repeated. It's really 2 rows, but it's 4 because it's an odd number of blocks in each row. But I'm going to cast on all the way across. It is a really simple pattern. It's just knits and purls. If you're looking for it on Etsy, it is the Thank You 5 blanket pattern. And I've just scaled it down to make trivets, which currently are in creams and cream-like colors. And then coasters, which are all sorts of funny colors. But that is because this is also a tic-tac-toe set. But I'll show you how that works a little bit later on. So I'm going to finish casting on and be back when everything gets set up. So here I am with the correct number of stitches. And the first row, I have to knit 1 rather than slipping 1 because it otherwise that first stitch actually falls through, given the cast on technique. Knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, and then purl 5. And it is literally that all the way across, finishing with one of the knit 1, purl 1 squares. And then the reverse of that row, the ones that were purl for the 5, going to be knit, and then where there's a bump towards you, it's knit for here, and where there's a knit towards you, it'll be a purl. And that's it. So here is the other version of the rows. So I'm going to purl first for the 5 stitches, and then do the knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, and then purl again. And again, other than whether you're starting with the purling section or the seed stitch, the rows are exactly the same. So there are technically 4 rows, but the pattern in the on Etsy in the book, it's written as 2 rows because that's my squares I needed across. It was even rather than odd. So there we go. But to show you a little bit more about how the bigger project works. So here is a finished set. I'll be back in a bit to show how these lines are put on. But it is a tic-tac-toe board with the coasters being the X's and O's so you don't have to worry if people have a harder time with fine motor skills. They're able to play a full game of tic-tac-toe with just the squares, and then everything piles up together inside the trivet. So the big one is for bowls and mugs and such. And then the little ones are for drink containers. Then just the last part is just 2 long lines, and that is so you can tie them together. So all the ends are still on these. Obviously those will get woven in later, but it travels pretty well. Okay, but I will be back in just a second to show how those lines of stitching get added to the trivet. So here is a trivet that is completely finished being knit. I'm going to make a slip stitch on my hook. I'm going to attach in the corner with this slip stitch, and then I'm going to crochet up okay, and then so working back down, I'm not working a single crochet, I am just doing a slip stitch all the way down. So inserting the hook, picking up a loop, pulling it through both the stitch and the loop on the hook. And in fact, that's going to be the exact same stitch that's used all the way through this. Because instead of building fabric like would normally happen with knitting or crocheting, it's actually putting on decoration. Now, one of the things that I like about doing these projects is they are completely 100% cotton. So the yarn is actually made to make washcloths and coasters and trivets and stuff like that. It is completely washable, which is absolutely wonderful. So I've worked all the way down the little tie, and now inserting down the selvage stitch. So again, picking up a loop and then pulling through the loop on the hook. But I'm not going to go all the way down the edge, because then I wouldn't get the grid marks. I'm actually only going to go up to 1/3 of the way. So a little bit more. And then go into this next one, then cutting across. And going across, it's going to be every 2 strands of yarn. So it's every stitch working across. This is where it got a little more interesting when I did the original prototype of how do I hold it and still make this useful. So I ended up kind of flipping the whole work around so that I'm still holding tension with my left hand, which is probably easier because I'm That way I'm able to hold it underneath and have as little fabric in the way as humanly possible. I'm going to work all the way across. And then on the verticals, it's also going every 2 threads. In that case, it's going to be 2 rows rather than the every stitch like this, like it is horizontally. But let me pull out the finished one again so it's a little easier to see what was going on. So started up here, worked down, across, up, did a little loop on the corner, down to the corner, did another little loop, up, across, down, did another loop, across, up, the final corner, and made the second little tie. And then to put them together, it's just putting the loops over one of the threads, or yeah, one of the ties, and doing an overhand knot so it's secure. And that's it for this week, and I will see you next time on Make It Monday. Bye.